All right, we are done dealing with the blemishes, and now we are moving on to the most important tool, which is the adjustment brush tool, K on your keyboard, K key. That's going to be something I use all the time. But before we get started using them, I want to tell you how to create one. So here's the thing when it comes to adjustment brushes. If you do something in Photoshop or in Lightroom more than 5 times, you need to create something that's going to do it automatically for you. And in the Photoshop example, that's going to be something like creating an action. If you do something in Photoshop more than 5 times, you need to create an action for it. If you're working in Lightroom and you do something more than 5 times, you need to either create a preset for it or you need to create an adjustment brush for it. So let's get started and let's create our first brush. I'm going to zoom in to the beautiful Melissa here, and what we're going to do is create a brush for her irises. Now over here we have activated our adjustment brush tool over here, and if I zoom in you can see that there are a couple brushes that come by default with Lightroom, but you can create as many brushes as you want. And you can see that my list goes, just get ready, because my list is pretty stinking long. But let's create our own brush. So what do we want to do to the irises of this image? Let's go ahead and maybe increase the exposure just a little bit. And then we can increase the contrast a little bit. Maybe pop those highlights to make those, those catch lights really show up. And maybe darken some shadows just a little bit. And let's add some clarity, because that's always fun, and doing some localized sharpening. And let's add a little bit of saturation to the eye color. And then we'll add quite a bit of sharpening, because I like that effect when it comes to irises. So now that we've got our brush created, what we can do is come on over here and we can brush into the area that we want this to show up on. Let's go ahead and decrease the feather just slightly, and then go ahead and brush in that effect. Now, can you guys see how immediately all of those changes that we just tweaked are being applied with me just painting in one brush stroke? For me, I think that that's where the true beauty of retouching in Lightroom lies, okay? What we've done is let's come back over here and let's look at what we just did to this iris. We made these many changes to the iris with one brush stroke of the pen or the mouse if you're not using a tablet. So we did exposure, that's 1, contrast is 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different changes. Oh, and the thing that I forgot is maybe tweaking the color a little bit to make the iris look a little bit more green. So that's 7 and 8 changes. So what we've done is we have created a brush that changes 8 different things about this iris, and we can immediately add it to any image that we have moving forward. Now, if we were in Photoshop doing this, we would probably need 6 to 8 different adjustment layers just to achieve the exact same thing we just did with one brush in Lightroom. So that's really one of the take-home lessons for today, is just showing you the power of what can really be done in Lightroom and using that to your advantage so that you really start speeding up your retouching time. So we've got this awesome brush that we've created. Now we want to save that brush so that we can access it and use it in the future. So let's come to our custom flyout menu here, and what we're going to do is scroll all the way down to the bottom. Now your list will not be anywhere near as long as my list. I have over 100 retouching portrait brushes in my list at the moment, and that's why my list is so long. So we're going to choose to save current settings as a new preset. And so we'll go ahead and choose that, and then we're going to name this brush. So let's name this brush Z, just so that I know where it is on my big list. Kelby Green Eyes 2. Because I've already created one of them, so we're going to just use 2 for this example. So we'll go ahead and create that, and immediately, if we look up here, we can see that now this brush has been named Z Kelby Green Eyes 2. All right? So that's a pretty good start. I really like what this brush was able to do to the iris, but I just think that maybe there's, something else that could be done to this iris brush to really make it pop, all right? And so this is where we get exciting, and this is where one of the most powerful things about the adjustment brush lies, is what I'm about to show you. So we've got this iris over here. But what if we wanted to go ahead and add a color to it? Over here in your adjustment brush flyout menu, you've got the choice to add a color overlay to this tool. So right now it says that there's no color on this brush at all. But what if we click on it and we choose to add a slight green effect to the brush, just to augment that color in the eye. So you can see I'm not adding very much. I'm adding maybe 15% of a color saturation over the iris. So maybe that looks a little bit too much. So let's take it back down to 12. And there we go. So now we've got our brush, but if I hover over this, you should be able to see that it's going to have the word edited next to it. Maybe I can pull this out to show you. Hopefully it will show up. See how that says edited there to the right of the brush name? What that means is we've had our original brush, but we've added something new to it. So in that case, what we're going to have to do, if we like this better than our original brush, is we're going to have to go up to our flyout menu here and scroll back down to the bottom, and we're going to have to choose Update Preset. All right, to Z Kelby Green Eyes 2. And now that's going to add that color overlay to the brush that we already created. So in this lesson, what you've done is we've been able to create a brush which is going to do 8 different things to anywhere where we paint it. And then the other thing that we've learned is how to edit that brush and update those settings so that we can always keep our brushes at the top, at the top highest perfect ratios of whatever they are, so that you love the effect that it gives.